I have yet to see anything about this movement that is based on honesty and transparency and reality. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for the support. On my channel, I like to give my opinion and perspective on things that are happening today, things that I think actually matter to everyday people, especially those of us trying to raise kids in the insanity known as today's society. Please like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and also share it with others. Be sure you are subscribed so you can help me to grow this channel and hopefully reach more people that value logic, reason, and sanity. Also, be sure to find me on Rumble under Outspoken Samantha in the event that YouTube decides I have violated their community standards, and chooses to kick me off their platform forever. That being said, let's get into today's topic. So I just wanted to do a quick follow-up to the video that I did yesterday about Sage's story. If you don't know that story, please go back and watch the video from yesterday, or I will link an article in the description box so you can read through that story and what happened to this young girl. But there were so many things that I feel like still needed to be touched on in regards to this situation that I wanted to just offer a few more thoughts. So if you go through the whole story of Sage, essentially she, was a kid that experienced trauma in her young life. Her dad died and her grandmother adopted her, and all the teachers were working with the grandmother to help Sage overcome this trauma. When Sage got to high school, she made a group of friends that were, binary or transgender or any of these, some of these other identities, and Sage was just trying to fit in, so she took on one of these identities, and unbeknownst to her grandmother, she took on a male name and pronouns at school. She ended up using the male bathroom and was assaulted in there and just experienced some more trauma. She ended up being lured out of her home online and trafficked in another state, and then she ended up being housed in a male home, as she got involved with the law and going through this whole process with her attorneys and judges and trying to figure out, how to handle the situation. Through this whole process, her grandparents were trying to get her back, trying to bring her home. And on the other side of it, the grandmother explained how the attorneys, how the judge, how the counselors, how the teachers, all of them were, working to influence Sage that she was this male identity and that this is who she truly was. And the only harm that the judge and the lawyers recognized was if her grandparents used the wrong pronouns, and they kept Sage away from her grandparents because of that, despite all of the trauma that she was going through. The grandmother also talked about the attorney and the attorney working to try and convince Sage to accuse her grandparents of abuse, and also trying to convince her. I think the counselor tried to convince her to remove her breasts. So it was just this big mess, and eventually Sage did end up getting back to her grandparents, and now she is in the process of healing from all this trauma. But she went through some of the most horrific things: being trafficked, being raped, being assaulted, being threatened, being housed with other males. And in the process, she also felt like she couldn't tell the lawyers, the judge, the counselor, the teachers, everybody else involved, all of these authority figures, that she really wanted to go back to being a female, that she really was not a boy, that she never wanted to be a boy, and this was not who she was. And she became afraid of all of these people to express herself and to tell them who she really was. And the only person that she ended up feeling safe confessing that she was her grandmother, that she, had her grandmother eventually start buying her girl clothes again, but hiding it from the attorneys, and just losing herself and losing her identity. That is a very short version of the story, but please go back and listen to it or read it. But what I wanted to touch on was just so many of the things that this truly exposed, and I did touch on them again in some of my video from yesterday, but it just makes me wonder how many kids are losing their voice in this process? How many kids are convinced to take on a transgender identity in their school setting and hide it from their parents? And then in the process of committing to this new name and new pronouns with their peers and with their teachers and with their surroundings, do they feel that they can stand up for themselves and reverse course and turn this thing around? And will they be supported in that? And how many things can we trust when teachers say that this is what your child wants? Your child has come to me and said that they want to be a male, they want to change their pronouns, they want to change their name, how much of that is about that teacher's activism, or is it about the child's well-being? When they come to a parent and say that you need to affirm your child or it's going to cause harm to them, is that really about the child, or is it really about them? When a counselor comes to a parent and says, if you don't affirm your child is going to commit suicide, are they really being honest about that? Because as we see in this story of Sage, the attorneys, the judge, the counselors, everybody involved with her prioritized their activism over her well-being. And I honestly believe that the counselors that are doing this to kids now, that is their priority. And I do think that when they tell parents that their kid is going to commit suicide, that is a manipulation tactic to get parents to give in, to yield to this ideology and to hand their child over, because of course no parent wants to lose a child for any reason. And then you see these parents that are convinced that their kid was transgender from birth or from the age of being a toddler, and you have to wonder how much of that is about them versus the well-being of their child. Does that child understand that as their body grows that they are going to be different from their peers, and can they accept that battle and take it on for themselves? And these parents seem to think that the more legislation they pass, the easier it is for their child to live for the rest of their lives as that identity. But they're not thinking about the fact that this child is eventually going to be an adult, and they are going to look back and they are going to have a lot of questions, and they're going to wonder, is this something that I would have chosen for myself? And people want to pretend that this isn't going to have long-term consequences, that a child, they are going to be able to speak up and say, I thought I was a girl, or I'm a boy that's been wearing girl clothing, but now I want to turn around and be a boy. First of all, is their parent going to be accepting of that? Second of all, who are they going to go back to being? They're going to try and go back to a person that they've never been. This is all that they have ever known. How are they ever going to know what their true identity is when they started out life this way? Another thing that people say a lot is that the effects of puberty blockers and hormones are not permanent, that they just put a pause on things, that they give a child a chance to just decide for themselves what they want to be. And that's a lie. There are, kids that their voices change permanently, or their body changes permanently, or, we're seeing a lot of studies come out and information come out about the fact that they're going to probably end up fertile, or they're going to have a whole host of other medical issues as a result of putting things in their body that their body was not prepared to handle. And a lot of people also want to say that, well, it's not your kid, so don't worry about it. This is not just a one-off incident. This is something that is taking hold across society and across schools. And we've never been a society that saw harm being caused to a child and just felt the need to ignore it. You would never look at a parent beating their child and say, not my kid, not my problem. And when you have something like gender ideology that is everywhere and has the potential to harm, mass groups of children and an entire generation of people, it is our job to step in and say, this is not okay, this is devastating kids, and we don't want to wait and learn the hard way about the inevitable devastating effects that this is going to have on kids as they get older, as they face life with, more maturity and understanding. I have yet to see anything about this movement that is based on honesty and transparency and reality. Parents are lying to their 3 and 4-year-old kids, saying that, yes, you were born a girl, but you can be a boy and be happy with that for the rest of their lives. Counselors are lying to parents, saying that if you don't affirm your child, this is what's going to harm them for the long term. Doctors are lying to parents about the effects of hormones and surgeries and not being honest about the long-term repercussions of that. And politicians are lying about caring about the well-being of kids because they don't care. Like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments below, share it with others. Also hit the notification bell to be notified every time I post a video, and I'll see you in the next one.